We're back here at CPAC with Brandon Straka. Thank you so much. How are you doing today, first of all?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. It's been a busy CPAC. I wouldn't mind getting back in bed for a little while.
I understand that.
No, I mean, the truth is it's great actually to be back out and kind of among my people and getting lots of love and support, so it feels good.
Well, when you started all of this, I first heard about you during Just Walk Away campaign.
Right.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Okay, and what was that? And tell me a little bit about your story. What happened?
So Walk Away is a movement of people walking away from the Democratic Party, and we started as a Facebook group and a testimonial campaign encouraging people to make their own videos and tell their own stories about why they're walking away from the radical left, the Democratic Party, the liberal media, the betrayal that they feel from people, a political ideology and a political party that they've believed in and trusted their whole lives. So this movement grew to, on the Facebook group where we began, grew to 510,000 people telling their stories, tens of thousands of videos and testimonials. Facebook banned us in January of 2021. And so now we're back with our own social media platform to make sure that nothing like that will ever happen again. We're rebuilding the Walkaway community with Walkaway Social, our own platform.
So Walkaway Social and the Walkaway campaign, what were the main reasons that you wanted to walk away from the Democratic Party or other people were walking away?
In a zoomed out answer to that question, it's the media. I mean, it was overwhelmingly the media. The discovery that the media that I had trusted my entire life, sources like CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, BuzzFeed, Vice, Huffington Post, were lying and creating false narratives and being deceptive. I believed in these false narratives the entire time that I was a Democrat. I believed that the Republican Party was racist and bigoted and divisive and hateful and self-interested. And if it wasn't for Donald Trump getting elected, I never would have woken up to any of this, really, because it was when Donald Trump got elected, the media that I, again, trusted went so crazy. Even I, as a liberal, was feeling it. I was like, what the hell is going on? And so I kind of went on this long journey of research that went on for months and months and months. And I went on a quest to try to understand, how did he get elected? How did the media that I trusted get this so wrong? And by kind of going back and really doing my research and not just listening to the sound bites and their narratives, but actually watching entire Trump speeches and talking to Trump supporters and finding out more about what MAGA believes in and what it's all about, that's when I began to realize that I was being lied to and deceived by the media. And that sense of betrayal was so hurtful to me that I was like, I can no longer be a part of this. And so I walked away from the left.
Now, a lot of your story also is intertwined with January 6th. Now, I know that you were on the Capitol that day,
right,
with thousands of other people. Tell me what happened with you and your story in relation to that.
Yeah, I was outside of the Capitol on January 6th shooting a video for about 8 minutes. I was a scheduled speaker who was supposed to be there. And I started hearing that people were going inside the building, so I started shooting a video. And I walked up to the top of the east side steps. The doors were open on the east side. There was a crowd of several hundred people. Some of them were trying to make their way in, and the majority, like me, were standing there shooting a video. And I shot a video for 8 minutes, and then a man came outside of the building and said, "They've cleared Congress, everyone leave the building, move out, move out." And I immediately turned around and I left. I never entered the Capitol on January 6th, and I didn't commit any violence or vandalism. I didn't break a window or punch anybody or anything like that. And I took the video that I had shot and I uploaded it to Twitter. And I left it on Twitter for about 2 hours, and then I went back to my hotel room and started to see on television all the things that had happened on the other side of the building where I was, people breaking windows, and I thought, what the hell is this? So I took my video down because I became concerned that I didn't understand what I was seeing on TV. But the video had lived on Twitter long enough that it had been copied, and people were reposting it and tagging the FBI. And so about 2.5 weeks after January 6th, my apartment was stormed at dawn by the FBI. They got me out of bed, put me in handcuffs, presented me with a search warrant. A team of agents began stripping my apartment of my computers, my phones, my iPads, my hard drives, my thumb drives, my camera equipment, my clothing. They put me in a black car and took me to jail. I sat in jail for 23-hour lockdown for several days before a judge ordered my release. And then I went through a criminal case that lasted over a year, which ultimately resulted in me agreeing to plead guilty to a misdemeanor charge in order to move forward with my life, because initially the government tried to charge me with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor and threatened me with a 3rd felony of obstruction of Congress. So I was potentially facing 24 years in prison for the 8 minutes that I stood outside of the building shooting a video. When weighing my options, I decided a misdemeanor plea deal was the better option.
I know that after that, you took a little time for yourself because obviously this was a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
At this point, when you look back on it, and I know that you probably have to separate yourself when telling the story, can you believe that this happened in the United States that you grew up in?
No, I can't. I think that I'm so in it at this point, and I don't think of myself as out of it. In fact, I keep trying to tell people that it's getting worse, not better. And the problem is that most people don't even know the basics of how bad this has been for every person who's gone through it. It's not their fault. The media's not talking about it. We can't get the stories out. It's become radioactive. We did 2 panels yesterday that I paid to host called The True Stories of January 6th, where I had 5 January 6th defendants on a panel telling the audience about our experiences. The audience was shocked. They were crying. They were gasping. They couldn't believe it. But here we are now going into the 3rd year since January 6th. It's now been 2 years and 3 months or something. And the hatred that I receive is worse today than it was 2 years ago. The left is becoming more unhinged. They're becoming more rageful. And frankly, much scarier than they were even 2 years ago. On a daily basis, I'd say I get a minimum of hundreds, if sometimes not thousands, of comments telling me that I need to be hanged, that I should be spending the rest of my life in prison, that I'll die and go to my grave a traitor to my country, that I am a violent domestic terrorist and an insurrectionist. We're talking about somebody with a Class B misdemeanor charge for disorderly conduct for being outside of the building shooting a video. The amount of hatred, I mean, we're talking about hatred unlike anything I think you've ever seen before. It's scary. But again, because people don't really want to talk about this topic, this is something that I think most J6ers just have to live with and endure in secrecy, because nobody will really talk about this. And it's very, very, very scary. So
what is the message that you want people to understand about January 6th that they may not know?
Yeah. Well, I guess the message that I want people to understand is that every single person who's been dragged into this nightmare has a story that is unique and different. What the government has tried to do, and very successfully done, is paint a narrative and paint a picture that if you were arrested and charged on January 6th, it's because you were a part of a mob mentality, and that mob mentality is that you were trying to overthrow the government and use violence and force to reinstall Donald Trump as the president of the United States. When in fact, that person over there might have gone, hey, what's going on? It looks like somebody opened the doors. And that person over there might have gone, well, hey, I see my friends over there in that crowd. I'm going to go see what my friends are up to. And somebody might have gotten some text messages that said, hey, people are going inside the building. Are you filming that? Oh, no, maybe I should go and film that. Different people were in different places and doing what they were doing for different reasons. And perhaps in my case, I entered what they call a restricted area. That was one of my felony charges. Again, I didn't enter the building, but at one point I entered a restricted area. To be clear, I was surrounded by thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people. But I uploaded my video, and so I became charged with a felony for entering a restricted area. And because of that, the narrative is now that I was a part of a mob that was trying to overthrow the government. And I think there's so much about January 6th that's just disturbing and disgusting and never should have happened. But the onus on this really falls squarely on the American media, left-wing media, and our government, because, of course, it wasn't an accident. They did this with intention. But there should have been a line drawn where they said, okay, here's a group of people that, broke windows and fought with police officers and really tried to use force to get inside the building. And those are the people that, we're calling the violent rioters. Then we've got other people who were kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time and maybe didn't really understand what they were doing or what it was. These people are not really, we're still charging them. We're still seeking, criminal penalties for what they did. but we don't consider them to be a part of what this other. The government made no attempt to delineate, to separate those two things, and the media was happy. The walkaway guy, he was he was leading the insurrection. Are you kidding? He was leading the charge. They were happy to do that. And I found myself in a position where there was almost no ability for me to push back on a counter narrative, because many of the mainstream conservative media, cable news outlets, they didn't want to touch my story. So it was kind of me versus the entire liberal media, me versus the entire government. Well, that's a David and Goliath story that nobody can win. So, I just am doing the best I can.
One last question. Is there anyone who you believe has been tried and true, who's been your support through all of this?
Now, I'm not saying that not a single person has spoken to me. I'm not saying that not a single person in leadership has expressed concern, but it's been much too little, much too late, and there's much more that could be done to try to make a difference, and that hasn't been done yet. I'll keep an open mind. Something is better than nothing, and even if it comes too late, it should still happen. But I know at this point, I'm not going to give credit to anybody for being a savior in this situation, because that hasn't happened.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much for taking your time today and sharing your story. I know it's been a difficult time, but you're standing strong today, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.